Hi folks, my next review is a 1985 grid style Mastertronic release called Excaliba. So the packaging for this game is the early Mastertronic packaging, the grid style of course, and it's got the cartoon style artwork on, which was on many of these early releases. Quite strange image there on the front of the knight, who is presumably our hero, and he seems to be riding some form of goose or duck. There's also a wizard up in his tower doing what looks like evil things. And the spine, grid style as mentioned, says Excaliba on it, and the back says, with the help of the magic sword Excaliba you battle your way through the castle in search of the lost princess, beware of the evil wizard and his minions. Inside we've got some screenshots and it looks to be a platform game. You can see some platforms and ladders there, and lifts and things and steps. And inside got the instructions, just an enhanced version of the back cover there, basically rescue the princess. And the one thing of note here is the only aid that Merlin can give you is the magic sword Excaliba, which will appear for short periods. If you can reach it before it disappears, it will be transformed into a gigantic bird which will carry you around the room. It's a rather peculiar use for a sword, but there you go. We've got the controls and the loading instructions and foreign language instructions. So here we have the loading screen, and as you can see it's not a straight copy of the front cover artwork, but it does have a similar theme. We've got our knight with his lance sitting on the back of a goose, and not quite sure what that is there. We've got the Mastertronic logo in the corner, Excaliba written down the left hand side, and somewhat peculiarly a picture of a tree. Here's a title screen then, and nicely done it is too. It's definitely an arcade style game this. You've got your usual things that befit an arcade game, a title screen, thing that tells you about the points and how you play the game, high score, bonus, extra points, all that kind of stuff. As you can see, the aim of the game here is to pick up all the door pieces to escape to the next level. You can also pick up the sword to gain mystical powers, far greater than those of the wizard and his demons apparently. And it even goes on to say to use the lever or joystick to move and the fire button to jump, and the choice of 1 or 2 player game, so definitely an arcade style feel to it. And you even get a little demo of the game showing what you've got to do and what to expect. As you can see, our little knight is wandering around picking up these pieces of the door and then runs into something and dies pretty suddenly. So that was the introduction. Let's get on with the game. Nice little bits of music here and there in the game as well. Nothing that's really pushing the SID chip to its limits, but not bad all the same. So here's the first level, as we've just seen on the demo. And the idea, as you've already seen, is to wander around, pick up the items, specifically the pieces of door, and avoid the enemies because they're all fatal to the touch, so there's no way to kill them, at least not yet. As you can see, here comes that sword which turns you into a knight on a duck, and you can now take the enemies out, which is kind of useful. It only lasts a certain amount of time, but I've got my money's worth out of that, and then got killed unfortunately. Didn't place myself very well there when the bird ran out. The graphics are pretty basic, they're of the time, 1985. But they do remind me of the arcade game Joust. I mean, the actual game itself's nothing like, but the characters sort of remind me of the knights that were on the backs of the birds in Joust. Oh, that's going to be unfortunate if he spawns one there. Oh, that was lucky. And again, on this section where you get the Excalibur sword in a moment, hopefully. It's taking its time to materialise this time. Maybe you don't get it second time round. Looks like I've got to do this all on my own then. Luckily, it's not too far to go. Hopefully we'll see that bird again on the next level. Here comes that level now. And it's more of the same, but it's a lot harder. And this is another thing that reminds me about the game Joust. As you'll see, the enemies on this level are a little bit different. They are quite reminiscent of the pterodactyl in Joust that sort of swoops backwards and forwards across the screen. and again they're fatal to the touch, so you've got to be careful where you go. And I haven't been very careful there. Got a couple more lives, so keep going. It's all about judging the sort of flight path of this thing to get past it without coming to harm. Oh. Seems to be pretty safe there at the moment. Oh, here comes that Excaliba sword, which is going to very handily get to me. As you can see, he looks rather like the bird, the guy flying the bird in Joust. At least I think so. And that's that level completed. But it is much harder than the first one. It took me a lot of attempts to actually get off that level. And the third level features some lifts going backwards and forwards. And again, the enemy changes here. As you can see, there's only one enemy at a time, but it's an archer that spawns on whichever level you're on and fires an arrow at you, which is very unpleasant. It means a lot of dodging up and down the screen to try and avoid him. Oh, that's instant death. I've got no chance of surviving that. That archer's standing in mid-air there. That's not fair. We'll try again. Sounds pretty decent in the game. Again, it's very much of its time, kind of little arcadey style noises and so on, but they do the job. Some nice little tunes, as I mentioned. It's going to be a race against the arrow here. Oh, I didn't want that. Oh, that's game over. As you can see, it gets quite difficult quite quickly. There's not a lot more to say really. You've seen the first 3 levels. I have got to the 4th level once. I didn't get the high score that time because I got a high score when I was having to play through before. But all in all, it's a nice little game. Is it good enough to be worth $1.99? Absolutely. Back in 1985, it's quite reminiscent of Chucky Egg. I may as well carry on playing while I'm talking. Quite reminiscent of Chucky Egg, although not as easy as Chucky Egg, because every time you die, all the things you've got to pick up respawn on the level. But these kind of games were very popular in the early to mid 80s, so it's definitely good stuff, and it's pretty well programmed. It's a little bit glitchy here and there, and the fact that the enemies spawn in random locations does make it challenging. But overall, it's quite a nice game, and one of those that you definitely carry on playing and try and get a higher score, or dying a lot. Very difficult on the later levels, as I mentioned, but I think this is one that could actually almost sneak into my top 10 Mastertronic games. So,
if you only knew the power of the dark side.
2, 1, 0.